My family was destroyed by kosher dietary restrictions.
Sounds like everything wasn't kosher.
Now that it's been almost a year, I thought that someone may get out of my hot mess of a family.
I'll be the judge of that.
By the way, this story comes from I Consume Too Much Media, and you can submit your own stories on the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, it's Thanksgiving weekend. Last year, my extended family has come to my house to celebrate the holiday, and we also loop in my grandfather's birthday so that we can celebrate all these events at the same time and in the same place. My grandfather chose to go out to eat at a nice steakhouse, followed by a cake he bought from his favorite bakery. My aunt and her 2 children in their early teens drove many, many hours down from where they live and hadn't eaten since that morning. So when we got to the steakhouse, both cousins checked in with their mom to make sure it was okay for them to get the biggest steaks on the menu. My aunt, not fully paying attention to them, told them it was fine to order whatever they wanted. Flash forward, back at our house, and my grandfather wants to get started on eating the cake immediately since he and my grandmother are old.
Priorities.
And want to get to bed before 9 p.m., and it's now 8. So my aunt immediately puts her foot down, saying that her kids can't have any of the cake. You see, my aunt married into a conservative Jewish family. Her husband was spending the holiday with his own family, and that side of the family keeps kosher. My aunt says that since my cousins both ate steak, they have to wait 2 hours before they can consume any dairy, aka the earliest they could eat cake would be around 10 p.m., an hour after my grandparents wanted to go to bed.
So why don't they just eat it later?
The saying is let them eat cake, not let them eat cake later.
Interesting. Okay. So non-issue so far.
This is very annoying to my mom and grandfather since they had discussed this very issue with my aunt and told her to make sure her kids could eat the cake right when we got back from the restaurant. My aunt forgot about this when giving her kids the okay to order giant steaks.
The giant steaks.
Just one moment of not being kosher is not going to do it, right?
Well, no, I just think it's like one moment of like, let's wait to eat the cake until later. Just bring it home. What's the issue?
It wasn't the cake,
Yeah,
it was
bring
the steak.
me home. Bring me home.
The issue is the children ate the steak, and now, based on when they ate the steak, they cannot have the cake.
Until later.
Later, but then Pop's asleep.
Why do we have to eat it with Pop?
Pop wants to eat cake with his family. Is that too much to ask?
I'm sorry, Papa. You can eat with your family. I'm sorry, Papa. I didn't mean to, Papa.
And that's why you don't eat steak before cake.
You're right, Papa.
My mom and grandfather put their foot down, claiming that they looked it up, and nowhere in the Torah does it say the exact amount of time someone needs to wait between eating red meat and eating dairy. This issue has happened before in our household, and this resentment has been brewing for the better part of a decade. My mom and grandfather say that it isn't religious law that's keeping the kids from eating cake, but family tradition, and since one of my cousins was a bar mitzvah, he could be allowed to make whatever decisions he wants regarding keeping kosher. Shocking absolutely no one, my cousin sided with his mom and said he would be keeping kosher according to his family's tradition. The fight gets super bad really quickly, as it tends to do when you're fighting about religion in an interfaith household, with such hits as my aunt accusing my mom and grandfather of anti-Semitism. This is only 2 months after 10/7, and saying that if her husband found out that their kids broke kosher with my family, he wouldn't allow her to take them to ours unsupervised anymore. This second point is never addressed ever again. This whole thing ends with my aunt driving home with her kids in the middle of the night. Enter my grandmother. Grandmother has always been a bit of a tough nut. She was one of those super bright women in the 1970s who remained a stay-at-home mom and gets her intellectual stimulation from TV and gossip. She's also going senile, which isn't helping things. My grandmother has always had some weird things against my mom. My theory is that my mom was born to keep my grandfather out of Vietnam. My aunt was born because they actually wanted a child. We've got a strategic Vietnam baby theory. So once she understood what was happening, she immediately took my aunt's side and said it was wrong of my mom to chase my aunt and cousins out of the house, which is not what happened. So far, we have my mom and grandfather. The 2-hour rule that your family keeps is burdensome when you're being hosted by non-Jewish family, and you should amend it when you're around non-Jewish family to make meals easier, that's insane. Not gonna lie, that's an insane take. Can you imagine applying that to like being like, well, I know that you're Muslim and you don't eat pork, but honestly, I don't care. When you're here, it's inconvenient. So you should definitely eat pork while you're around us.
The thing is, like, you can respect but everyone can respect what's, everyone's different dietary restrictions and stuff. it just means you could have cake later.
Yeah,
that
literally
was so easy.
Such a non-issue. This is an
Yeah.
oops. Oh, well, they can't eat the cake yet. I guess
They'll eat it
everyone else gets to
later.
eat the cake, and they can eat literally anything else to join in on the moment.
I do think it's also like a little bit interesting that like they said he was a conservative Jewish man, which usually this is obviously not like the case, point blank, but usually they would not marry a woman outside of the faith. So it's interesting that like they're very conservative about the values, but like
I don't know. Maybe they're not. And
Yeah, which
we're
it
only
just
getting we're
feels-
getting that from OP, not from
no, I know
the
it
actual
just feels
wife.
like there's
OP is probably just saying that because they're like kosher. I don't know. How much does OP even know about
clearly
their
not a lot.
sister's Jewish husband?
Not much.
My aunt says you guys are being anti-Semitic for expecting my family to change our rules around keeping kosher. My grandmother says you shouldn't have pushed your sister and her children out of your house. Now we're at Christmas. My mom and aunt have both been reaching out to everyone they know to get support and validation for their own side. My aunt writes a giant email to my mom and grandfather about how they're so hypocritical for wanting them to change their religious practices, etc. My mom didn't respond. My grandfather at some point begins disaffiliating with my mom and starts trying to mend the burnt bridges between his two daughters. I find this a little ridiculous since my grandfather was the one to actually escalate the fight in the first place, and my mom just took his side. Now he's backing out, but my mom is maintaining their original position. My grandmother is still wholeheartedly taking my aunt's side and going for really low blows. My mom got my grandmother a bunch of things for Christmas, and grandmother said she hated all of them to my mom's face as she was opening the presents. What a Georgia peach grandma is.
Gem.
Just a sweet little nectarine of a lady.
Really a gem.
My grandmother also stayed with my mom and dad for a period of 5-ish weeks and would call my aunt every day, complaining about how awful my mom was to her. My mom treated her fine, and claiming that my mom was refusing to feed her. My grandmother had full access to our kitchen, but was getting so batty that she would forget or refuse to feed herself and then blame my mom, which my aunt took at face value. So now we have these two sides. My mom, the 2-hour rule that your family keeps is burdensome when you're being hosted by non-Jewish family, and you should amend it when you're around non-Jewish family to make meals easier. Also, I'm not doing elder.
I don't know. I disagree.
I don't know. If you literally go into the Torah that they're basing this off of and then go, there is no time limit.
Yeah, but
That is specifically stated. That's one thing. But then also, if there is no specific time limit and then they go, yeah, our time limit is 2 hours.
Yeah.
Then the time limit's 2 hours.
exactly. It's like
Let them eat carrots or something. Why are we? Everyone needs to just stop finding problems, find solutions.
this is I don't know. I am kind of I think the OP sister is being a little bit annoying, but also I don't think you can say you can't do it here because it's hard. They've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah, right.
They've been
And I'm
doing
sure-
it for 10 years,
and so this
you
has
still
happened over
haven't.
and over again, probably. But it's also
Honestly,
probably
yeah.
been fine before.
Yeah, I think this is kind of everyone sucks a little bit here.
Yeah, everyone sucks a little bit.
Yeah.
They suck for just being like, well, just don't be kosher right now.
Yeah, what
And
are
then
you
they suck
talking
for being
about?
like, well, you're being anti-Semitic. And it's like, well, no, this is not I'm not doing this because you're Jewish. I'm doing this because you're being annoying to me.
Yeah.
My aunt says you guys are being anti-Semitic for expecting my family to change our rules around keeping kosher. Also, you're doing elder. My grandmother says you shouldn't have pushed your sister and her children out of your house. Also, I am now refusing to eat for some reason. My grandfather, you two should reconcile and our family should go back to the way things have been. It is now summer. My mom and her sister have not spoken for over 6 months, which I think is the longest they've ever gone not speaking. All communication between the families has been facilitated through my dad and uncle. By this point, my aunt and uncle have tried to reach out to my mom multiple times, apologizing for the fight and for storming out of Thanksgiving, but they refuse to budge on the 2-hour rule, so my mom is having none of it. Grandmother is still sticking steadfastly to her initial position. Jury's still out on whether she realized my aunt had changed her original position. My mom flirts with the idea of taking her sister and parents to family therapy, which I strongly encourage, but chickens out.
Honestly, yeah, because you guys are having a fight over nothing.
Yeah, this is literally this fight has something to do with something else entirely.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Enter me, the child. My aunt writes my mom a letter, which my mom only gets partway through before having to stop because my aunt starts calling my mom anti-Semitic again, and my mom doesn't want to hear it.
Wait, that's really funny if she's like, oh, here comes anti-Semitic.
Since I am known as the most emotionally intelligent member of the family,
Ooh,
and
fact.
is the only character in the plot who has ever been to any real therapy, my mom asked me to read the letter and let her know if there are any points where my aunt has conceded that my mom was right. What a healthy thing to want to know. Just read this.
Like, why was I right?
Daughter, read this and tell me if I was right.
Oh, man.
Second sentence in, my aunt wrote that we've had our issues in family before. For example, when grandfather cheated on grandmother, cut the cameras. I had no idea there was any infidelity in our family. Did my grandparents have a good relationship? No. Should they have gotten divorced in the 1980s? Yeah. Do I blame them for raising their children in such a toxic environment that their daughters fight like lunatics? Also, yes. But never did I even think about the possibility that my grandparents had cheated on each other. Safe to say, this tears my whole world apart a little. My grandfather is a complicated man, but I have always idolized him as the kind of person I would want to be when I grew up. He is charismatic and gregarious. He has a ton of friends well into old age and has been super successful in his career. My grandmother is also a complicated woman, but since my mid-teens, I had noticed the way she treated my mother and didn't approve of it. This revelation flips that whole paradigm for me. I freak out. My mom apologizes for giving me the letter, saying she forgot that was in there. And my parents explained to me that it happened before I was born or when I was really little, and since each of my grandparents refused to divorce the other, my mom and aunt decided not to tell their children since they didn't want us to be raised thinking adultery is something a relationship can just bounce back from. It's kind of smart. If you're going to keep a secret from any kid, it should be a secret like infidelity isn't a deal breaker.
Yeah.
That should not
You don't
be
want to teach your kids that. Yeah.
the foundation you build relationships when you start to teach your kids about things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good call. I have been sworn to secrecy by my parents, so I can't talk to my siblings or cousins about this, which I have upheld. I wish I didn't know about it, so I wouldn't want to inflict it on someone else. Now we have these sides again. My mom, the 2-hour rule that your family keeps is burdensome when you're being hosted by non-Jewish family issue amended when blah, 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 blah. My aunt, I'm sorry for storming out of Thanksgiving, but I will not be changing my religious practices.
Fair.
Literally fair.
Very valid.
My grandmother, you shouldn't have pushed your sister and her children out of your house, which again is not really what happened from the sounds of it.
This is repeating it.
From the sounds of it, we're just restating our positions.
Okay.
From this, no one was pushed out. They left on their own accord. So it's more like you pushed them out with your vibe.
Your vibe pushed them
type
out?
scenario, but no one got kicked out. Fast forward to late summer. My aunt texts me and my siblings begging us to come to our cousin's B'net Mitzvah issue. Our family will be coming back from an international vacation 12 hours before the service, and also that's the day we have to move into college. So that's just not happening.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Apparently, my aunt had sent our family save the dates and invites, which my mom had responded no to, knowing that the timing would have been really tight. My dad is the one who booked all the tickets for our vacation, and he frankly wasn't paying attention and didn't care about the dates in relation to my cousin's service. Everyone in our family is uneasy about not attending because we know this is basically the nail in the coffin for our relationship with that side of the family. I text my aunt letting her know that I won't be able to make it, not because of any specific issues, but because I will be 6+ hours off from the jet lag, and also I need to move into college that day. I wrote my cousin a card, and I believe I also sent him some money, and I promised to watch the live stream of the service online. My sibling is much more upset about this scheduling predicament since they are a lot closer to my cousins than I am. However, out of the clear effing blue, my mom says that's okay because she will be attending my cousin's bar mitzvah and that my sibling is welcome to join her. Their genius level plan was to respond no on the invite and then drive through the night to the state my aunt and cousins live in, attend the service to show support, and drop off all our cards and gifts, then drive home on the same day and move my sibling into college. The logic is that they have the flexibility to not go if plans fall apart getting back from international traveling, but they can save face in front of my aunt by showing up last minute. I and my dad are convinced that this plan is doomed. On a day this important, nobody wants controversial surprise family to sneak in the back. Right? I crap you not, their plan works. My aunt and uncle see my mom and sibling and immediately burst into tears, and they even get to sit in the front pews with all the other family members. My uncle's family, who are all conservative and Orthodox Jewish, are all very receptive to my mom and sibling, and everything seems pretty good. My mom and sibling also stayed for the little family-only brunch at my aunt's house, where my mom and aunt agreed that they should find some way to make their interfaith sisterhood work. To the extent of my knowledge, my mom and aunt weren't in contact after the bar mitzvah, and their relationship is on the road to recovery.
Yes, good. Because like at the end of the day, the mom is being intolerant of her sister's beliefs. It's a little bit of less maybe like direct hatred for religion and more like we were raised one way and now you're doing something else and it's difficult.
Yeah, this all just comes down to you know what? You just freaking suck sometimes, sister.
Yeah,
and I hate you.
But it's like, Mom, you need to get over yourself and realize like not everything is about you. And this is her religion.
Dude, next
like,
time
literally just her religion.
Let the kids eat celery. Let them eat freaking
I don't know. Cake later.
Pickles. There's kosher pickles out there. Have them eat a pickle.
You get a lot of different things kosher.
You know? Just why did this be this? All of this over cake.
Yeah.
Enter my dad, or more accurately, exit my dad, because in September my father was unalived in broad daylight.
Why did you write it like that?
I think we're coping pretty well. I think we're coping with a little bit of humor.
Ooh.
Yes, you read that right. Legally, I am not allowed to comment on his passing any further, but safe to say my whole family was in shock and still is. In a lot of ways, my dad was the glue to the maternal side of my family. Everyone loved him. He was always really insightful and funny and knew how to break the tension when my mom's side would bicker. My aunt was hysterical. She has expressed nothing but regret about the cake incident. She's embarrassed with herself for making a scene and storming out of the last family get-together we'd ever have as a complete family. She's steeped in regret for not having said a proper goodbye to her brother-in-law of over 20 years. My mom was a mess. When my aunt walked through the door the day after my dad passed, the first thing my mom said was, "I don't care what you eat. I don't care when you eat it. I need my sister." It's really unfortunate that an event of this magnitude is what was needed to crystallize these people to realize this is all stupid.
Yeah.
And we could all just cease to exist right now. So, well, at least they know that it's silly, huh?
Yeah.
At least we know
like
this has always been silly.
It's been silly. Like the really easy solutions, and it shouldn't have taken like this really devastating, experience.
Yeah.
To realize that.
Let that be a lesson to all of us, I suppose. Don't wait for a moment of extreme grief and loss to reignite your familial bonds, if that's not what it takes. Sometimes that is what it takes.
Sure.
This is not one of those times.
Shouldn't have been.
The cake incident is finally over. Here's where we stand as of writing. My mom, I need my sister more than I care about food rules. My aunt, I'm sorry for making a scene. My grandparents, I miss my son-in-law. Me, I miss my dad. Also, this whole family is a crap show and you all need therapy. And there's an epilogue here. You guys want to know the worst part? The part that my dad and I would joke about constantly is the cake wasn't even good. It was super dry and the icing had gotten all hard. Our whole family crumbled over a stale cake.
That's I just don't understand, but whatever.
This is a wild fusion of grief and humor that I was not fully prepared to confront in this moment.
Wowie.
But by the way, you better get prepared to fully confront the full episodes with stories just like this on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search OK Storytime.
So true.
And that's one of the truest things I've ever said.
I've never heard a true thing.
If not the truest thing I've ever said.
But let's finish this story off.
Let's go. I hope that somebody reads this. I hope that somebody can bask in the glory of the cake incident without knowing all the characters in this play intimately. I hope you laughed. But what I really hope is that someone remembers my dad. I hope somebody thinks before they speak and remembers that every interaction with someone may be their last. So treat people with kindness. I miss you, Dad. I'm really afraid of what Thanksgiving will be like without you this year. That is the end of the story.
It's a very sad ending.